Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to the Old Geezer Show after a couple of false starts this afternoon. I'm Chris. It's the 5th of January 2023, and we're looking at something interesting today. Health myths. Myths, can I say that? I don't know. For old geezers like me, and perhaps like old geezers like you and ladies. You have to be cautious, don't you? Okay, what we're looking at today, we're looking at the things that people say that may or may not be kind of true. And one of the things that people say a lot of things about is health and well-being and how we're actually doing. So let's get this show, I believe, on the road and say, here we go with a bit of, I don't know, can we say fun, a travel and adventure? I don't know, but we'll say what we can. Let's just get things sorted out. And let's have a look at what we're talking about. What we're going to do is highlight some topics and see what people say about them. And then I'll quote you some research, which is current and up to date. Because one of the things that happens with stuff like this I guess, is it always gets left behind. People say things about what's actually happening, and then in fact suddenly it becomes true or untrue as people do more research. So what we're going to do is start off with a topic and see where that one goes. Here we go. So breakfast is the most important meal of the day. What do you think? Now, I think breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And the reason I think breakfast is the most important meal of the day is that it gives you a start. It actually gives you, I hope, an energy boost and actually starts things going in your little, organism. All those bits inside there start having to do stuff. And so you have to wake up. But interestingly, it isn't, according to current research, it isn't really necessary to have breakfast. You can do quite well with an apple and a cup of coffee or whatever, whenever really you happen to do things. But there are some really interesting kind of sidelights to having breakfast. And one of them is for women. There was a recent study on female volunteers who were a bit overweight or found themselves a bit overweight. And it transpired that if they had breakfast, regardless of whether they wanted it or not, in inverted commas, it actually gave them a greater weight loss and a greater waist circumference reduction than those ladies who didn't have breakfast. Now, that's a really interesting one. Does it mean that if you skip breakfast, you're hungrier later, so you eat more? If you have a big breakfast instead of a big dinner, maybe that helps you to regulate your blood sugar and things like that. Well, I don't know. I love breakfast, I have to tell you. If these days I'm eating probably one fried breakfast or maybe two a week, and mostly I'm eating porridge. This is a bit damn boring, but I still enjoy it. So there you go. Okay, so that's the first one on our list. See what we got next. Oh, yes. Now I think that's true, Marion. The body needs to refuel. My body needs to refuel. Give me a bowl of porridge and a bacon sandwich, is what I say. Nice to hear from you out there, Marion. Okay, let's go to our next suggestion. Here we go. A lot of people say you should walk 10,000 steps a day. Do they know what 10,000 steps a day means? 10,000 steps for an average person is 5 miles. To be honest with you, we mostly walk, I think, at about 2 or 3 miles an hour. And I don't have time to walk 5 miles a day. If I walk, I reckon I'd probably walk maybe a mile most days. I don't know. It's difficult to judge, but there are some figures that are interesting. One figure that really, really came up and was released in 2022, it said you may get benefits as against heart disease and premature cardiovascular disease and cancer if you walk around 10,000 steps a day, but you may also get effects upon dementia if you walk around 3,500 steps a day. That seems to me to be a really interesting bit of information and a worthwhile thing to know. So I'd say really the jury is out on whether you need to walk 10,000 steps a day. But I think walking some distance a day, not only does it keep you fitter, but it maybe helps with dementia and things like that. And that has to be good news. Okay, let's see what we've got next. Next on my list, you need 8 hours of sleep every night. Well, I think I mostly get 8 hours of sleep every night, and I still fancy a doze in the afternoon. So I don't know what that really says. But apparently, according to a sleep study that was released in 2017, people who got 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night actually performed better with cognition, i.e., the brain working, than people who slept less than that, regardless of age. It's not age dependent. So, in other words, if you sleep 4 hours, if you sleep 4 hours or less every night, you perform less well than if you were 9 years older. So that's a scary one, isn't it? It means that in absolute terms, you need to sleep 8 hours a night or 7 or 8 hours a night to get the most benefit from your sleep. I'm very lucky. I do. I hope you do as well. Tell me if you do. I'd love to know. Okay, excuse me, itchy eyebrow. You should aim to eat. Let's go on to this one. Let's move this one up the page a bit. There we go. You should aim to eat 5 portions of fruit or veg a day. So, yeah, you should. There's a surprise for you. With all these things, you think, is it true? Is it not true? I don't know. But it is sound advice, apparently. But it's a bit of an arbitrary number. In fact, there is some evidence, says one scientist, that if you eat up to 10 servings a day of fruit and vegetable, there are benefits. So take the nails out of that one, guys. More veggies, more fruit, and apparently both veg and fruit are good for reducing your risk of cognitive decline and dementia. And apparently diabetes can be influenced by eating more veg, and so can levels of stress. So if you're feeling really stressed, maybe you should eat more fruit and veg. That's an interesting one, isn't it? I don't know. And apparently the different veg are different in their benefits. So dark and leafy greens and what are called cruciferous veg. I don't know what that is. I suppose it means it's cross-shaped. Like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage are more packed with antioxidants than bananas. So there you have it. Okay. Right. Number 5 coming up. You need to drink 2 liters of water a day. Here's the thing. I was last told that in hospital, and actually the reasoning for that one seemed really good to me because I had that horrible, if you remember in the summer, I had a horrible UTI and it wouldn't go away. And now I'm drinking more than I had done for most of my life. And it seems to be maybe keeping it at bay. I don't know whether it's that benefit or just a general health benefit. I do not know. But drinking more has certainly made me feel better, although I nip to the loo more often. One of the things that this one comes back to, this is all a bit of I guess you'd say, a bit of a, can we say a red herring? I suppose not. Can we say a red lettuce? Probably, actually, yeah. Okay. It's a bit of a red herring because back in 1945, the United States National Research Council said the suitable allowance for water for adults is 2.5 litres per day for most people. Most of this quantity is in prepared foods. And then another American scientist said more or less the same thing in a few years later in 74. And he said physiological systems in your body, mechanisms in your body, tend to control this to a degree. You feel thirsty when you need water, in other words. But what he was saying is, on average, the average person needs 6 to 8 glasses per 24 hours, and this can be in the form of tea, coffee, milk, soft drinks, beer, etc. Fruit and vegetables are also good sources of water. So what tends to happen, I think, is that doctors, nurses, people who try and help us with our health look at the numbers and they say, oh, you should be drinking 2.5 litres of water. And then you say, well, I drink loads of cups of tea. Oh, it doesn't count. In fact, according to US research, it does count. All forms of liquid, you need 2.5 litres a day. Quite a lot of that you get from your veg. Me, personally, I guess I drink the equivalent of probably 6 mugs of tea, and that's 300 litres in a mug, according to me. So I drink 6 threes is 18, 1.8 litres. I drink 2 or 3, maybe 4 glasses of squash. So that's another 12. So I probably drink 3 litres of water in addition to what I get from my food. Okay, let's go a little bit further down the line with this one and say that the fact is that you can get medical problems from drinking too much water as well as not enough. So I'm going to leave that one where it lays, and maybe we'll come back to that one later. Okay, let's move along and see what else we've got to talk about. Here it comes. So, a daily glass of wine is better than abstinence. That is not true. Abstinence, apparently, is better for you. Isn't that awful? I'm deeply sad about that. If you have a glass each night, excuse me, if you have a glass each night, the truth is that you don't really get a benefit from it. Scientists say a recent New Zealand-based bit of study says that moderate drinking benefits disappear almost entirely. There is one thing that they talk about apparently, which is that there is a heart benefiting molecule called resveratrol, and you'd need to drink gallons of wine to get any benefit from it every day. There you have it. Small scale, regular drinking is far from ideal, they say. And let's just go, lost my little bit. There we go. 1 or 2 drinks a day might decrease the chance of healthy aging and reduce the size of your brain. In that case, having been through a period where I was drinking at least half a bottle a day, my brain is probably the size of a peanut, but there's no real discussion there, is there? Okay, and let's move on to my final one. I did save this one to last as well, especially for all of us red meat eaters. Red meat is bad for you. That's another one that's open to discussion. Red meat, if you went out and shot yourself, heavens, if you went out and shot yourself a wild cow, then it is probable that it wouldn't do you any harm at all. Apparently, much of the commentary about eating meat is to do with the processing that the meat undergoes and the processing that the animal undergoes while it is eating or while it is being grown up. It's an interesting one. The general truth, I gather, is that mostly if you eat meat that comes from unfarmed animals, then you do not have any of the kind of attached chemistry that goes with farming. If you raise cattle, you're going to put antibiotics in them. You're probably going to put other stuff in them, and you're probably going to treat them in a different way to the way that ordinary wild animals would get treated, and therefore the stuff that you're taking in with the meat is probably less good for you. It says that the research that I've got says that the Inuit and Maasai in Africa are quoted as being are quoted as having benefits from eating red meat, but in fact, all the red meat they eat has had pleasant, free-range lives. They haven't had any chemicals put into them or anything. So the reality is that if you eat meat that's a product of our farm system or red meat that comes through a large retail chain, you're probably not doing yourself a great deal of good. But if you're eating meat that is fresh off the killed animal, and that animal is unprocessed and the meat is unprocessed, and that is probably better for your health. So unprocessed is the answer with meat. Well, there you go. What did you make of that? I thought that was really, from my personal point of view, I thought that was a really interesting one. I don't know what you would say to that. But from my point of view, I think that's an interesting area. All of those things, I will put a link to an article that more or less covers this, covers some other stuff as well, in the comments on YouTube, and I'll also put some comments on Facebook as well, and you can take a look for yourself. I think it's really interesting, and personally, will it change anything that I eat? Probably not. I don't think so, but I will have a look at what someone else has said. Let's have a look at young Alan, and let's see what does he say. Let's just get it so I can read it. Alan says, breakfast myth was for marketing by colleagues. Yeah, they now say when you're hungry. Yeah, that's true. But the article I read and the background I did does say that breakfast has some actual benefits. And according to some research I read from schools, it also says that kids perform better in school when they've had some breakfast. There you go. I leave it in your hands. You're playing catch up with the show. Well, I don't blame you. It's a good show, I hope. And you'll be happy. Yes, you would. I know you would, Alan. But I have to say, Alan, it's nice to hear from you. And I hope you're keeping well. I worry about you a bit, mate, because we've met a couple of times. What a nice man. Okay. And that kind of completes us for this little show. What have you made of it? Now, if you come back to watch this on catch up, I hope you find it interesting and enjoyable. Do leave comments if you have comments to make, if you have a viewpoint to express. Purely personally, tell me how this show has gone. Oh, right, okay. I'll come back to that one in a moment, Alan. If you have enjoyed the show and found it interesting, give me a little like or a love, whatever you like, on Facebook, on YouTube. Always delighted to hear from you, and I love to have your comments. The more, the merrier. If you feel like following what we're doing a show every 2 or 3 days, and keep up with us. If you want to do that, just go to the subscribe button on YouTube and subscribe to the show, and then hit the little bell as well, and you'll get a notice when we're doing one. Okay, let's just go back to Alan's comment. 5 a day. There is a saying, if it takes you long to poo than pee, then you don't have enough fiber in your diet. Well, I have to tell you, Alan, there is one thing that I always say, which is that if I don't sit on the loo for long enough to read at least half a chapter of a good book, then it's a wasted poo. Okay, I'm Chris. This is the Old Geezers Show, and I will see you, I hope, very shortly. Take care of yourselves. Do have, I suppose you would say, I've got to say this, haven't I? Do have a healthy life and take care of yourselves. See you.